Hello and welcome to SHOWstudio. Today we'll be discussing the Molly Goddard Autumn/Winter 18 show, which happened a mere few hours ago. I have a remarkable set of panelists with me today, and before we dive in and talk about Molly, some of the themes, some of her previous work, and looking at her current collection, I will let my panelists introduce themselves. Cassie, let's start with you.
Hi, I'm Cassie Smart and I'm a buying manager at matchesfashion.com.
I'm Soki and I'm a creative director and fashion stylist.
Hi, my name's Lotte Andersen and I'm an artist.
Hi, I'm Kaia Charles. I'm the cultural projects manager for Now Gallery.
And I'm Lara Johnson-Wheeler. I'm features editor at SHOWstudio. Great. So let's begin. I want to start by going back a bit because I think Molly is someone who always feels very, very current. And even though she's a relatively young designer, a phrase that people turn their noses up a bit at, but I think we should look at some of her first collections, particularly Lotte, is because you worked on some of these.
I was in that one.
You're in the show. So tell me a bit about this.
In a really long time. Who's that? I can't see whose face it is. Is that Isabel?
Don't know if we have a face.
Oh yeah, Molly Fun Party. So, what happened?
Tell me more.
I mean, she texted me one afternoon saying, hi, me and Tom have decided, Tom is Molly's boyfriend, me and Tom have decided we want to do a show. Can you give us a hand? And I kind of went round to her flat and she was just sort of sat there with like piles of tulle and her little sister and her mum was in there and they were like, well, we've decided to do this show, like, what should we do? And at the time I was throwing parties and so I think she was kind of interested in doing something. Obviously, because she wasn't on schedule, she was like, how can I do something disruptive? And I was like, we should just have a party.
Of course, you were doing Maxilla at the time,
yeah.
So then this kind of felt right for you?
Yeah, I mean, it just felt like the easiest, nicest way of showing something within the fashion schedule that might just trip people up a bit. Tom found an amazing church hall, which was like 4 doors down from the love party that night. And then I essentially just sent out, and like a bunch of us, like these guerrilla emails saying, there's something happening, it's 2 doors down, run down and say hi. And this is all of us like sitting, she got the same, at Maxilla, which was my party at in this Portuguese restaurant, they used to have every Friday like a Portuguese singer come and sing with a guitar, and she hired him, and it was literally just all of us hanging out in her dresses, listening to this hilarious guy sing his songs, like eating popcorn and things.
The atmosphere of this always, I remember seeing it, and it always just felt so fresh and fun. And watching Molly's career as she's sort of escalated and risen, she's definitely become a bit more polished and a bit more put together. What do we think if we compare her current work to this? Do you think there's a difference, or does she still maintain that spirit?
I think she's always had like a really good like signature throughout her collections. We were saying earlier that this one felt a lot more sexier, so then it already feels a bit more grown up and kind of empowers women, I think, from all different ages, which I think is really interesting. And bodycon to like voluminous. I always like her smocking, I think it's lovely, and the like use of the black poplin was really strong.
And these are definitely, you know, things that you're picking up on. These are definitely undercurrents and tropes that have always happened in her work. And I'm interested in the way that that thread has been there for so long. But Molly's not a one-trick pony. What do we think?
Was this her first collection after graduating? Okay.
Have you seen this before, Soki?
Yeah. I remember when she graduated, was it from St. Martin's?
Yeah.
Like, she was trying to get her collection to shoot straight after that was a nightmare. You'd be waiting for like months on end. I think you can just see her develop as she kind of grows herself. And what I really like about Molly is that you get a sense of like what her collection is like and what she must be like, even though most of us don't know her, from the story that I've read, that her mum and her boyfriend, it's now the director of the company, and her sister styles the shows.
Yeah.
And I just think that's so sweet. It kind of gets rid of that arrogance around fashion, and she's doing so well. And like, people like to see that. Like, I think that's humble.
I think that's really interesting that people do feel like they know Molly. I think that's because so much of her character does come through. I mean, we're looking at this collection, the Autumn/Winter 15, and she put on a life drawing class, which I think felt, very natural to her.
It doesn't feel intimidating. It's like, It's really nice because I think what's really great about each of the pieces of the clothes and how it's more about how each person wears it, and everyone can wear it in a completely different way, which I think is also good. It's just fun.
Yeah, I feel like that is very much the case, that you could have two people kind of wearing the same dress and styling it completely differently, layering it in a different way. So I feel like, yeah, it's very kind of quite democratic and inclusive.
And that's definitely, you know, become what people who buy Molly and wear Molly do. But it's very smart that she started that trend with the styling. What do we think of generally the way that these shows are styled? Is it appealing?
I think it's really appealing.
It's really fresh.
Yeah.
It is. I think like quite an obvious way to style something like this is obviously it's very girly, but she's obviously realised like that's not exactly the kind of person that I want. Let's just open it up a bit. So like even with the girls and like hair and makeup and the casting and you know what they have on their feet and the apparel that they wear underneath, it kind of gets rid of that over sexy because it's obviously see-through tulle. But
I love the fact that it's really performative. You know, all her shows, you know, convey that. And when she worked with us in the gallery as well, it was a strong sense of kind of theatricality.
And whimsy. Very whimsical.
Of course, so now we're looking at the show at the Nat Gallery, where Molly put these amazing 30-foot tulle dresses. And you're right, it really does have that sense of whimsy and theatricality to it. And I was interested looking at that, the way that she brought that craft into an art space.
Yeah, for us, it represented a bit of a shift, I think, for us and how we kind of perceived exhibitions and the approach to exhibitions. In fact, it's actually quite a simple concept to kind of suspend dresses, but you know, the dresses were suspended by pulleys that could be lowered down, and she invited the public to kind of come and sew on the dresses. So it's that whole thread of being inclusive and democratic and inviting a broad audience to kind of contribute to a kind of overall show. And it was fantastic to see these dresses at the V&A kind of fashion in motion show, to see that some of the dresses were included and worn and taken down the runway. So that was really fantastic. It felt like it had come full circle in terms of a process.
And of course, so this is some of the fashion in motion. Molly's one of a number of designers now who've been invited to do the fashion in motion at the V&A. And it's lovely the way that that translated so well into that space. Of course, we've got quite an art background here today.
Yeah.
Lotte, and what do you think about bringing designers into a space like this, and how did you feel Molly did?
It's interesting because I feel like I've never really understood fashion in an art context, only because I studied fashion and then kind of moved into something else, but I always felt like it was so practical. The thing about clothes is you always need like 2 arms, 2 legs and a neck. And I think, I think it's totally beautiful. I haven't actually seen this film before.
It's really beautiful. I mean, it was kind of presented in the round, so you had this kind of continuous procession of dresses, but...
So is it kind of like a retrospective? Of like a mix
yeah,
of
I think it
everything
was
she's
taken from her archive, wasn't it?
okay, cool.
Yeah. And you can see some of the oversized dresses from the gallery.
And then she's got girls doing life drawings, so it's
Yeah.
almost like a overview of like everything she's ever done.
Yeah.
God, the set is insane.
Yeah, her sets are always so clever.
when was this?
It was like, I think it was like last 2017, I feel
Yeah,
it was.
2017.
2017.
I haven't seen this.
Because it was the opening of the space, wasn't it? The new
Yeah.
wing of the V&A.
Which has, I feel, taken these fashion in motion shows to a whole new level. Yeah, beautifully lit and, you know, presented.
I think, yeah, it was very interesting that they chose Molly to use the space, particularly as her dresses do in so many ways fill space.
Yeah, they're super sculptural. I love that stripy jumper.
So yeah, drawing on the stripes and the knitwear, people often, when you think of Molly, you think of sort of the princess of tulle and queen of the big floaty sheer dress. But are we interested in what she's doing with knitwear as well, and these different kinds of fabrics?
Yeah, definitely. I think overall she's really interested in textiles because it's like the way that she deals with like smocking, gathering, and like you're saying, space. Like it comes, I guess, from studying knitwear and from that background. And I think you see that through all of her work. You can always see like an interest in some kind of fabric manipulation, like here and.
And that striping knit was so nice with the kind of crochet of the white. It's kind of all showing the customer like a day option so she can be more glamorous with the tool, but she can also just like feel comfortable day to day.
So Match has just started stocking
We have,
Molly
yeah.
Goddard. So what do you think was the moment
I
that you
think
felt it was right for the consumer?
I think for us, the last collection, it was a great collection with it was a great cast. And I think, again, it kind of showed her that she's not just like what you were saying, that one-trick pony. It's not just about the tool, and I feel that last collection really demonstrated that. And it felt super kind of almost quite grown up, we always kind of call it like that entertaining at home, not so much that kind of fashion customer, but very kind of creative, she's not so worried about the trends, and like really interested in layering. She may wear it head to toe, but then she'll probably be a loyal customer. And I think that's what we saw, and yes, it was a really beautiful, quite demure collection, I would say, and kind of just paired with like the boots, worked well, and like smocking. That was something that obviously is like a great signature print for her.
It's interesting looking at this collection. So this was the Spring/Summer 18 that we're looking at now, so the previous collection. It was a bit more pared down in a sense. It wasn't necessarily the brighter colours that we were used to. And in an in-fashion interview quite recently on SHOWstudio, plug, Molly said that, you know, she has started using tulle less. And this collection definitely showed that. But I did get to thinking, what do we think, how would we feel if Molly Goddard stopped using tulle?
I don't think she could.
Yeah,
I don't think it's allowed.
part of her.
No.
She'll always get those
Panel says
customers.
no.
It's like if Prada stopped making skirts.
Or
Like,
stop
that's-
nylon.
Huh?
It was stopped nylon.
Like, you couldn't really. I think the thing, like, to go back to like where she comes from, like the cool thing about Molly is she had a really solid aesthetic from her graduation collection, and I think as a young designer, it's really important to nail that. Like as you're saying, because essentially you figure out who your customer is immediately, and then you keep rolling it out, and it's like about, you know, adding the knit and then maybe paring it down, but immediately from the very word go, you know what Molly does.
I also think what's really interesting about Molly's collection is where with some collections, like the next season, you're a bit tired of it, it feels a bit like, oh, it's done. But with her, from her first collection, going back to that party, it's quite a timeless trans-seasonal, like it always works, you'll never tire of it, you'll always go back to it. And I think that makes it quite collectible, feels that nostalgia. I think that's really interesting.
I think also now, like you can see, like as you get older, your work changes, your work kind of like develops, and you can see that as, you know, as she's done so well, you can see the quality, you can see like maybe like what she's going through or whatever she's developing. But also so many designers nowadays have kind of caught on to that tool, you know, like what was it at Paris? the Gambiasta Valley, and they had the pink tulle, and it was green, and they're amazing gowns, but like obviously if that's her signature style, she's got to do something, you know.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, it's natural to kind of evolve, and you need to, but she's kind of brought some of us across to the idea of tulle. Like you know, I feel some women probably would not feel like they could wear florals and so forth, and she's kind of made that aesthetic really, like, you know, accessible to lots of people who wouldn't probably just wear black like what I'm wearing right now.
That's really interesting. I love this idea that Molly's made girly accessible again, and I think that that's kind of become more and more apparent with the last few seasons. But it's interesting the way that this collection and the way she's maturing. I think she's almost redefining what that is and what that means. And I wonder, looking at this, and obviously we'll look at the next session, do you think this is girly?
I feel like definitely with like the kind of that white cotton, the smocking, the kind of the shorter dresses, I think that feels like really girly. But then it could be quite serious with the kind of use of like the black cotton poplins, which just feel really quite just elevated. So I think it kind of is really kind of engaging with quite a few different women.
The silhouettes are all quite similar, you know, with the way she kind of knows how women, like real women, how to wear clothes, you know, just because you know, you've got a great body, you don't want to show it every day. So I always feel like in a lot of her clothing, they all have the exact same silhouette, previous collections.
And that silhouette's nostalgic.
Yeah.
You know, it's like mainly like a covered shoulder, a cinched waist, and an A-line skirt. And I think that's why we think about it. I guess before she was doing stuff as well, like girly wasn't cool. And that's the thing, that's what's so brilliant, is she managed to kind of turn it all around and make girly really happening. But then is it girly, or is it just nostalgic and feminine? Because
Is she making us look at girly in a different way? I mean, Molly said before, she says there's nothing wrong with being girly. There's nothing wrong with being pretty if you define that yourself.
Yes, that's right.
I want to just go back a bit to when we were talking about shape, because I think it's quite conducive to the idea that what she also does is look at the shape of someone's body, and those dresses create a new shape and a new silhouette. And I think now is a good time to look at the current collection that just showed. Lotte, we're pleased to hear there is two.
There was
There are
gold
also lots
lame.
of different things.
oh
yes.
wow.
I love the
That first
gold.
look,
Yeah.
So immediate reactions.
I thought Edie looked really great in that first look. The
So
hair and
Edie kind
makeup.
of swanned out,
Yeah.
kind of
There's a bit of
sexy.
skin on show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like the long skirt, that very like entertaining at home, like
It's really polished. The thing, I feel like one of the reasons we always think it's girly is because of the styling. And like because of the hair and makeup is always quite irreverent and fun and girly. But like this is kind of like sexy.
It's like she's went to the dark side.
Yeah.
yeah.
And slick.
Yeah.
I asked Molly backstage whether she thought this collection was sexy, and she said that she was looking a bit at whether it was sexy, but it was still that thing of it's not overt. And I like that about that, you know, that first top on Edie. That top is sexy.
Yeah.
You can't deny it. But it also kind of looks like, I mean, I did this as a teenager, it's really embarrassing, but I used to cut the crotch out of tights
Yeah,
and wear it.
yeah.
Like if they were thick tights, like really thick tights. But do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I used to do that with
line.
fishnets.
So it is sexy, but it still has that thing of, it's still the girl who makes it her own.
Yeah.
She's still kind of pushing, you know, boundaries and being experimental with the stitching and gathering. I think this number is fantastic. Yeah.
Number two.
Yeah, number 2 and
It's the
4.
same, yeah.
Yeah.
Really great colour as well.
Yeah, it's a fabulous color.
Can we see more?
Yeah.
Just keep going.
This this black dress was amazing. On look 5, and the gold lame actually, the skirt of the gold lame with the I think she was wearing a crop top.
Also, there's accessories. There's never been a
I know,
handbag.
she's never really, yeah.
Do you know who did that?
Let's see.
And the shoes. It's beautiful.
No, I don't know who did that. It doesn't say that on the press release. But you're right. It's a really striking
Yeah, it's-
bag as well.
Really noticeable.
And although it's evolving, it's still, you would think majority of ladies would think that they could wear this, you know, despite whatever body shape, you know, it's still kind of very attractive to many people.
Also really good item pieces where she's kind of maybe focused more on dresses and that silhouette. Like these crop tops, maybe a younger girl will layer under, I don't know, printed tees, but then you've kind of got those elevated pencil skirts. So I think you can really change the collection to you.
This is so good.
I think it's like celebrating the female form in
Yeah.
different ways, which is great.
Also, the print is so sick. It's like warped, kind of.
Quite psychedelic,
Yeah.
like, but dark psychedelic.
This is great. 13.
And the puffball skirts.
There are some more puffball shapes coming too. So this dress, number 15,
Yeah,
was quite eye-catching, and people definitely caught notice of that because it looks something totally different.
it's quite surprising actually.
It does look surprising, and Molly said that she was inspired by this by a bouncy ball.
Oh,
That was super.
Yeah, and the tights are the same print. There's something kind of that there. That's the piece of whimsy, I think.
Yeah, I love these bags.
And that's nice if those go into production. Then
Yeah.
people will definitely buy into that.
But then it still has her like artisanal detail with like the kind of crochet piping.
I was kind of struck by one of her quotes, which was, you know, you can just take off one of my garments and throw it in the kind of washing machine. And that's quite interesting because a smocked dress is actually historically a utilitarian garment. So I think that's quite a nice thing to carry through, that it should be wearable, comfortable, and, you know, easy to use.
I totally agree, and you can feel this in this collection as well.
It looks comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the colours are quite brilliant as well. The models were drinking red wine as they were sort of around and passing bottles of Rioja to each other. And I quite like that some of the colours are such dark reds and blacks that you probably could spill red wine on that.
Yeah.
And like it wouldn't make that much of a difference. And Molly kind of has that wipe down, get it a bit dirty, it's okay thing.
Yeah, the girl's not precious.
Yeah.
I think that's what is so exciting about this girly girl, because she's kind of like a bit of a tomboy. You can imagine her kind of like rolling around in wearing kind of like one of these, what you would perceive as being really girly feminine dresses, but kind of being a bit rough with it.
I think you're supposed to be in these shapes.
Yeah.
I think, like, you know, you can't really help but, if you're wearing a big puffball dress, you can't really help but bash into someone in it. And I think that's supposed to be okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this piece
Will be seen on
27.
Rihanna tomorrow.
I honestly, that's the one.
Wow.
But yeah, these were like also really technical as well.
Oh, you can't quite see.
Yeah.
Amazing.
She's just so good at colour.
Yeah.
I think note should be made of the casting as well. The casting was just so beautiful, and all the girls were interacting with each other. I wonder if we could get a few images of the setup, because, you know, we've looked at some
the
of
set
Molly's
was good.
presentations, but you walk into every one and it's different, and the atmosphere is immediately set. And with this, kind of looked like a canteen or like, I don't know, a catering setup. There were small flower vases that had flowers, as though someone was going to come and put them out on a dinner table. And models were snacking on carrots, and like there were big tureens. And I knew the show was going to start because people were lifting the tureens and all this steam was coming up.
Oh.
It was really exciting. So you can have a little look here.
Wow.
I feel like
The Financial Times has captured lols with moles.
I
Sorry, I
think
interrupted.
Sarah is really good at making everyday objects kind of, you know, remarkable as part of the props. You know, she used these easily attainable plastic bowls at the V&A show to kind of, and she stacked them in a way, and it became a sculpture in its own right. So that's really kind of resourceful and fantastic.
What I think is interesting about this, it's like that previous one of Edie with the like red wine. You can just imagine her in her kitchen. It's that very much like I'm dressing up for a dinner party, like, but feeling really relaxed, and what we want to wear when we're entertaining, which I think is really interesting.
It's also cool to, I mean, when I think about fashion, I think about it being so much in the last 20 years about fantasy and escaping, and I feel like that the clothes kind of give you that impression, but there's something about the sets that grounds it in reality.
It's really unpretentious. It's like,
which sort of
with
pulls it
everything,
back.
like, and it's kind of like, I've never met Molly, but you look at her and you're like, oh, I want you to be my friend too.
Yeah.
You can imagine that she kind of is that girl.
The first line of the press release said, Goddard's woman doesn't get FOMO. In fact, she isn't too sure what it stands for. I think that really says a lot about this collection. And I like that we looked at the looks before we saw the set.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
It does say a lot that you were all quite taken. I mean, we saw the show, but it was that you were all quite taken with the looks, having not really seen the setup.
Yeah.
And it does show that whilst the sets are incredibly important to what they do, there is still that strength in the collection itself.
Yeah, certainly.
I also love that she encourages the models to just hang out and be themselves, you know, like and enjoy themselves. And I feel like that's always really picked up on after, is the atmosphere of how everybody seems to actually be getting on, as opposed to, you see like lots of presentations, there's sort of these poor girls looking very stiff, whereas she'll give you them something to do.
And then you walk away from the show and you're like, oh, I feel so inadequate because it's not me. And then when you watch this, you're like, all right.
But then you buy it and it is you.
And that sense of like being relaxed.
Yeah.
There's nothing sexier than like someone who's completely at ease. And I guess that's exciting about using these shapes in this context. So you don't really imagine like a girl in a ball gown stood kind of in a cafeteria type situation, but why couldn't she exist in that scenario?
I feel like there's a touch of humor and it's a bit tongue-in-cheek as well. And that tends to run through all the kind of props and shows. And maybe that's a comment on the dresses themselves, that you're not meant to take them that seriously or to take yourself too seriously.
When you, like, I think when we did a panel here a while ago and it was on emerging designers, and a couple of the girls were saying the problem that they have is with going from graduating to showing on main schedule at Fashion Week is everyone's opinions around you and whose opinion you should take. And she's had immense success like over the past, and she's a bit of an introvert with it. She keeps herself grounded, and what I think is really nice about it is that if you're around all of those people that tell you how amazing you are every day and give you your opinions of what you should do and where you should go, you do sort of see that come out in each collection. But I feel like because she kind of works quite closely with her family, you can almost imagine that her family are like, nah, this is just how we're going to do it. And you can see that as she grows. It's like, it's beautiful, like it is exquisite, but it is what it is. Like she's a girl's girl that you look at her and you're like, I do not feel threatened. I think you're a genius. Whereas for some reason, and I'll be honest, like I'm sure everyone has done it, that there's sometimes you watch a show and you just cannot, no matter how amazing it is, you just can't connect with it because there's nothing that you can relate to.
She's approachable.
How old is she? She's like
Molly,
29?
she's like, 29.
Yeah.
It's interesting, that idea of connection. And I think one of the big successes with this brand is that a lot of people feel very connected to it. Molly's from quite a specific background. She's very West London, but that seems not to matter. It seems to translate to a lot of different audiences. And we're looking, even when she started, you're looking at big tulle dresses, people were saying, but it doesn't feel pretentious. It doesn't feel one thing or the other. Why do we think that is?
I think like her set and like what we were saying, how they're not taken so serious and they don't feel so like restricted. They're quite loose, they're quite effortless. It doesn't feel intimidating.
Yeah, that's a good way.
I think it just seems like out of date to be totally removed. Like the way that we consume everything now, people want this, they want to like feel included. And I feel like Molly coming about, like when was that first show? Like 2014?
Yeah.
Spring graduate collection was 2012, wasn't it? And sort of my first collection was 2004 to 15.
Yeah.
14, I think.
But it sort of felt like before that, like although it was sort of like all the brands were trying to like move into being really accessible on like socials, and I feel like Molly kind of came at this like incredible sweet spot moment where actually there was like an audience who were pining to be involved with almost like a kind of cottage industry style business, and there is this. You can immediately identify with a family business. And it's so, even like the way that everyone's always credited, like Sarah Edwards set, Alice does the styling, like Theo does, Alice's boyfriend does the campaign, like there is this almost like, I'm trying to think of like a TV show like that or something.
Yeah.
You want to be part of it.
It feels like a soap.
As opposed to like when you see like a massive brand where there's like a CEO and then like some other business person and then like some other super stylist, like it's young, everyone's young and everyone's warm. I mean, apart from my parents, but you know what I mean.
It's quite organic.
Yeah.
Like they like just grow with what's like happening at that time.
Do you think that family thing really does appeal to a buyer?
I think so.
I mean, if it's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, in the end, like.
Yeah.
So if you have a cool family.
But think how many designers there are, like how many different stories there are. Like, doesn't people want to hear that background that she's kept it in her family and they all keep each other in check, and you know, and I think I was reading something on Vogue from last season, and she was saying, you know, they're interviewing her about her collection and giving her the spotlight, you know, like, how do you feel being the next huge designer? And she's like, oh, my sister's way cooler than me. She's always been cooler than me. And I just think, you know, I would never do that. So I just kind of like automatically, like, you just warm to her straight away. So it's the same thing, you know, when you look at, is it Matty Boven that had a show yesterday? Like, it's the same kind of feeling. Like, they just take a step back and they just, like, I don't know him at all, and you just sort of feel that you know him already because of, like, they have these immense collections, and then they come out and they're kind of like, hi, let's go, bye.
So it's also about the story.
It's a story with it as well.
Do you think when you look at a designer, a young designer, think it's useful to know more about them? Does it change how you look at their work?
I think it doesn't change. I think it's an additional, like, it's definitely a plus for Molly, because, you know, she's not really self-promoting herself all over Instagram. It's all about her work and what she does, and she's quite real with it. And, you know, I mean, obviously with Rihanna wearing her stuff, she's opened up to a whole different market. And, like, now it's funny because, you know, I remember shooting Molly's stuff, her graduate collection, when it first came out. And I've always got the same thing. When people look at my work, they go, what's going on? Like, is this just too much? But, like, people don't understand. And then obviously somehow Rihanna just makes everything, like, she just legitimizes everything. So now that she's been wearing, was it the blue dress that she wore? There's, like, all these girls now, and obviously every single high street brand has copied this dress.
Yeah, I think definitely the advocates like Rihanna do help, but I think it's going back to the essence of what Molly has really done, which is kind of dispel a lot of the kind of ideas around what a ball gown or a prom dress would be. You know, she's kind of deconstructed that whole idea and come back and kind of pulled it together in a completely different way. And I wonder if it's a comment on kind of women designing for women. And I wonder, if that's something we should look at, really.
I'm interested in the Rihanna effect, and particularly when you say it's a comment about women. Rihanna famously wore Molly's pink tulle dress over a pink t-shirt that said, "This pussy grabs back," to the Women's March.
Right.
And I think Molly's said before she's never purposefully making a feminist statement in her work. But do we think that inadvertently this is happening?
I think that's maybe just who she is. You know, we can sit and discuss, like, maybe what her intention was, but I think that's just who she is as a person. Like, she's a woman, she's, like, obviously got her own distinct style. I mean, I could be wrong, but I can just imagine her sitting there saying, I don't care what they people are telling me what to do, this is what I want to do, so I'm going to do it. So that itself is, I guess, being a feminist, whatever you call it, because she does what she wants to do. But I think that people warm to her as well, because she seems cute.
I think that's translating to our customer, like how she is. Like, her customer's probably quite pioneering, quite just empowered, not afraid of colour, like, wears, like, adapts loads of different trends and, like, clothes, and I think that's actually quite interesting.
I wish we all had a piece on.
No. Well, I think that is also the thing.
Party.
They are empowering, those pieces. They make women, I think, want to stand out and to stand their ground. And again, going back to the shape thing, to have that much shape on your body.
Yeah, I think that's probably the feminist statement. And it's quite difficult to, like, ascribe political feelings on people, like, on people's designs when they.
I thought you'd have thoughts on this.
Yeah. Well, just because I mean, I don't know. Like, is it feminist because it's covered up? Like, why is it? Like, yeah.
What do you think?
I just think they're cool. And I think that, as you're saying, like, a very confident customer wears that. And surely, of course, that young girl now, after the last 5 years, is also going to be identifying as feminist. But I don't think that, I've always never really seen that Molly is designing from that perspective. She's designing for a cool, confident girl who is subsequently feminist. But it's not, I feel like they're not political clothes, but that's just me.
Yeah, I don't think they're overtly political, but I think in her kind of designing for women and understanding, and probably designing for herself, she has made it, you know, she's made clothes that women feel comfortable to kind of wear.
Yeah, it's kind of like the egg silhouette.
And I think that's why you'll see women from like young girls to kind of maybe professional, like older women, and they feel really like empowered and just great in her clothes. I think that's what it is. You just feel great in one of the dresses.
We're talking a lot about Molly's successes, and I'm interested in the fact that, you know, quite a lot of high street brands, like you said, Soki, have tried to copy this. Why do they look so bad when this happens? I mean, come on, it's true. What do you think? Why is it
I've
that
never actually seen a knockoff.
two?
You saw
go in
something
there.
right now, it's pretty bad.
Because Molly also did a collaborative
She did one with
collection
ASOS,
with ASOS in
right?
2013, which sold out.
I think it's because if you know it's I mean, let me see, I don't want to call it a fake, but that's her distinct style. No one really wants a fake, do they? So it's like, whether it's amazing or not, you're like, tarnished.
I don't know, is
Does
that-
some of it get kind of lost in mass production? You know, obviously there's a lot of detail. They may look quite like simple garments, but there's a lot of detail and skill that goes into it.
Yeah,
And maybe
for
that's
sure.
lost in the
Because,
kind of volumes that
the
they...
layers and everything else that goes along with it, it's not an easy thing to make. And obviously with everything else that goes along with the kind of person that they're kind of whether they're aiming at a person or it's just her, you know, we're thinking so much into it. This is her designing for herself.
So back to the collection. What are we really interested in? What might we be buying? What do we think is really, you know,
Bags, tights,
lunging out?
skirts,
Yeah, I think her
Tops,
price
all of it.
points are pretty.
I think it's, yeah, it's all,
really tights and bags.
it's all like item pieces.
Yeah.
So,
It's an item piece.
so like, you could buy into, you're not buying into like a whole stylized like dress, so you're buying into like, you could just buy it into a jumper, but you can,
Mix and match.
yeah, so I think that's, so she's, yeah, being clever and kind of showing the next stage of the brand. So she'll have all different price points, like could be knitwear, which could be really accessible, up to the more expensive gown pieces.
I love the tights.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just super fun.
Tights are really smart 'cause it's a nod to where this print happens on a dress.
Yeah.
God, I love that little crop top.
She did say as well, for bigger bosomed ladies, these are obviously for quite small
Yeah.
boobies. And she said that she was going to look into making some bigger ones. My eyes lit up.
And what was the music like?
The music was really wonderful.
Yeah, it
The
was really
soundtrack
good
was really
music.
exciting. Cassie, you were saying you enjoyed that.
Yeah, it just felt really like just atmospheric, just like fun.
She played the song Angel that's in, you know, Romeo and Juliet, and who sings that song?
I don't know, sing it.
No shot. But it really was. It was quite a lovely moment because soundtrack had been quite heavy, and then it quite effortlessly moved into the song. Oh my God, I wish I could sing it for you, but I really won't. That'll kill me. But it was nice, and it was a moment when I think in a show and someone plays a song like that, a lot of people's ears prick up, and you think, oh yeah, that's what she's doing.
It's like a feeling and an experience rather than just a show.
Yeah.
Who did she collaborate with the shoes?
I don't know. It doesn't say on the press release, but I'd be interested to find out.
Yeah, they're great.
But I am interested in the way she does shoes. I'm actually wearing some Molly shoes now, but she did the collaboration with Penelope Silvers on those sort of the clogs with the horse, and they were very successful. But then in a few collections, she did the collaboration with Topshop when she did these boots, and they perhaps were less successful. They kind of had these flat soles, and they were a little they're like leather Wellington boots almost. Maybe we'll get some images. But I'd be interested to hear your thoughts about why these exactly. Because they do, I think, tread that line between ugly and appealing.
But the Topshop girl, that's not a Topshop girl's, you know.
Do you think that was the trip up?
I guess if you look at it, like if you didn't see Molly's name, you wouldn't really associate her with that.
But we are interested in the shoes from this collection.
Yeah. I actually like the silver Topshop
Yeah.
boots. I didn't even...
Did you not know it was happening?
I mean, how long
Perhaps
was
that
it?
was an
Because maybe
issue.
at that point
I didn't know they went
It
on
was in
sale.
2017 in January.
Oh, really?
Topshop was selling them, yeah.
Okay.
The price point was a little higher than normal Topshop shoes, which perhaps was another reason they were sort of less successful. But
It really has to do with how they're styled, I think. Like,
Yeah.
I feel,
It completely changes.
yeah, it does.
It's kind of become a completely different boot than
Than this,
when they're with like
yeah.
a pair of cut-off jeans. But then with that dress, they look completely fab.
Yeah, they're amazing.
that's interesting. So they didn't have the golden Alice Goddard touch.
There we go.
It really, yeah.
Guys, you've answered my question. Thank you. So I'm conscious of time, and I just want to, look at what Molly's doing currently, and have one eye to the future. She probably won't be thinking about that yet. She'll be celebrating this collection. But what would we like to see Molly do? More of something, less of anything?
I actually think she should just keep doing what she
Yeah.
does. Like, it's really nice to watch someone grow and watch their work evolve with them. And every season that she brings out something else, you're kind of like, oh, amazing. That she just gets better and better, so I wouldn't change anything.
And also, I really respect her pace. I think a lot of young designers feel a lot of pressure to, have bags, shoes, coats, everything. But I think it's, like you're saying, it's really nice the way it's kind of she turns the heat up quite slowly. So you kind of you would just want to continue with the same and see, what's interesting here is her moving into print. So you haven't really seen her ever make a print dress, but there's just one. So you're immediately your appetite is whet for are you going to be doing it next season? Would we see an entirely printed and smocked Molly dress? And yeah, I feel like.
I also think that, to an extent these days with a mixture of everything with musicians and celebrities, whatever, these days, women want to know the reality of these things. And, with a lot of the designers, as you were saying before, is when a designer gets so much funding, they go from this to this so quickly. And it's not a great feeling for women, especially that are all in a similar field or creative field, because you sort of feel a little bit inadequate yourself. And I feel that's why, Molly's very warm. She's a very warming, even though you might not know her, because you think, I understand, and it's very real. Each collection grows bit by bit. She knows who she is. She's not trying to be anyone she's not, and it just kind of makes you feel like you're going to growing at the same pace with her.
And for me, from an arts perspective, it's great. I hope she continues doing collaborations and putting her kind of designs out in the public realm. The V&A has recently acquired one of her dresses, so it's great that people can go and have a look. And I think that's really important for young designers to kind of keep engaging with arts institutions.
Cool to see a coat. I think that's the only thing that you've never seen her make as a coat.
I think
Smocking coat.
I think there is a coat
Is there?
in this collection. In fact, I hope I'm not wrong, but I think, Britt, if you want to go back to 24, I think that's a coat
I like the zipper.
with the zipper. I think it's a dress coat. So, Lotte, which is already answered.
Done.
She's one step ahead of you. But Kaia, I just want to go back to this idea of Molly's pieces being collectible. It's really interesting. I wonder if one day Rihanna's dress will be in an exhibition, and if these pieces will be, purchasable on a platform such as Matches, but also you'll be able to go and see them
Yeah.
in an exhibition space.
I think they're definitely collectible, especially when they mark specific stages of her kind of progression. And also, she auctioned one of the dresses she did for us for Mind, which is really fantastic. So, yeah, I do feel like they are collectible.
Do we think Molly Goddard is a designer that will be going to the V&A and seeing a big retrospective of, for example, Balenciaga, or, do you think this is possible?
I hope
Yes.
so.
Big nod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
It's very exciting.
Yeah.
Cassie, finally, from a buying perspective, what do you think? What would you like to see Molly doing?
I think, what you're saying about coats is really interesting. I think what's really great about Molly is she knows who our customer is, and she's got confidence in that, and she just needs to continue to engage with that and just continue to improve. And I think here, she's really shown us a wide selection of silhouettes, so I think it's great. And I think what will be good for buyers is each store, as she grows her stockists, will be able to kind of put their point of difference, their edit, what they want their Molly customer to be, which I think will be great for her creating a wider catch.
So a resounding nod of approval from our panellists. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you.
And I think we should give Molly a round of applause because that really was a remarkable show.
Yeah, it was great.